Every ultimate experience Ireland has to offer is always within reach with a 182 BMW. The ultimate bowl of chowder, seasoned with Atlantic salt air, the ultimate swim spot, even the ultimate scenic shortcut that happily takes way, way longer. Experience the ultimate with a 24-hour test drive from your local BMW retailer, because owning your new BMW is always within reach. Visit bmw182.ie.
Welcome to the Empowerment Hour podcast, your digital classroom where individuals across all ages, backgrounds, and career levels tune in to get their weekly dose of inspiration and motivation. It's where passion and purpose intersect. I am your host, Nancy Ruffin, the self-proclaimed Latina Oprah and your very own personal success coach. My goal is to help you discover your purpose and take inspired action so that you create a life where you feel fulfilled and empowered. So if you're ready to start living on purpose, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Welcome to another episode of the Empowerment Hour podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for vibing with me. Thank you for rocking with me on this journey. We're about, I want to say this is like the 80th episode. It's almost unbelievable that I'm 80 episodes in. That's a lot of freaking content. Jesus, I'm so proud of myself. It's amazing what we can do and what we can accomplish if we decide to be consistent and just stick with it. Never would I had imagined that I would be this far in, that this podcast would have provided so many opportunities for me, taken me to Miami for Hispanicize as a nominee for Best Podcast Content Creator. I mean, never in my wildest dreams when I decided that I wanted to start a podcast was that even in my mind. Like, I never really thought about the potential that sharing my voice and how that would, I guess, open opportunities for me and connect me with so many different people. You know, June is right around the corner. We're kind of stepping into midpoint of the year. And, you know, a lot of you that listen and are, you know, kind of loyal followers, many of you attended my vision board workshop back in January. And I really want you guys to kind of do a pulse check with yourselves and assess where you are as far as those goals that you set for yourself in the beginning of the year. You know, have you accomplished most of them? Do you feel like maybe you're lagging behind in some of them? You know, and even if you have not gotten as far as you would have liked by this point in the year, it's not too late, guys. It's not too late to really buckle down, refocus, and really start moving the needle on those goals, on those projects, on those things that you said you wanted to accomplish this year. You just have to take action. You have to stop making excuses. You have to stop allowing outside forces influence, you know, your ability to make it happen. You got to be out there crushing those goals day after day, week after week, month after month. That's how you get to the finish line. You know, you have to start. If you don't start, you're never going to finish. And, you know, so I really want you guys to think about that. As for me, I'm steady focusing on the goals that I've set for myself this year. My main goal for this year was really to develop the podcast, to get it to, you know, I want to be that number one spot. Like, I want to be the podcast of choice for personal development, for self-help, for anyone who needs a little push, a little inspiration, a little motivation. I want to be the podcast that they tune into week after week to get that. You know, and I can't do that without your help and continuous support, which you guys are amazing in doing that. You know, so for those of you who have been steady rocking with me for the past 79 episodes, thank you. I'm super grateful for you all. And if this is your first time tuning in, thank you. thank you for joining me. Not sure how you found me or what brought you here, but I am grateful. And so if you enjoy this episode, if you enjoy the content that I am putting out, please make sure to head over to iTunes and rate us, leave a comment, leave a review. The more ratings and more reviews I get, the greater the possibility for me to get featured on iTunes, the more visible I become to potential listeners, and share the podcast. Let your friends know that you're listening to it. Let them know that you're getting something of value from here, because that's really how I'm going to grow. It's really going to be word of mouth. It's just little old me. I don't have, a huge company or marketing machine kind of pushing and promoting me. So I depend, wholly and predominantly on my supporters. But thank you. I just want to say that. And with that being said, I'm really excited about this week's episode, because for those of you who are first-time listeners or listeners to the show, a few weeks ago, I attended the Hispanicize event down in Miami, Florida. And Hispanicize really is the biggest conference in the country for Latino content creators, journalists, anyone involved in social media. And so really it's a way for people across those kinds of platforms kind of come together and really network. There's a ton of panels that are happening throughout the 3 days of Hispanicize, workshops. So it was just really great. And one of the events that I attended while I was there was El Perfect Pitch. And what that was a kind of live Shark Tank-like competition where 3 entrepreneurs came and pitched their business idea to a panel of judges. And the winner of the pitch was going to be awarded $5,000 by Wells Fargo to put towards their business idea and, to kind of help facilitate the launch of the product and the idea. And so it was a wonderful experience. But while I was there, I was able to connect with one young woman who was the winner of El Perfect Pitch. And she has an incredible, innovative, yet simple idea that made me ask myself, why the heck didn't I think of this? And that so often it's those kinds of ideas that really take off, right? Because they solve a really basic problem. And it's something that we all, or probably the half of the population, could use. And so the young woman that I'm going to be having on tonight, her name is Lynda Peralta, and she is the founder and creator and brains behind the Pocket Palette. And what this is really a one-time use makeup kit. So for all of my ladies who are used to carrying around their bulky makeup bag, she has created a product for us that is the size or even smaller of a credit card, and it has all of the essential makeup products that we need. So it has mascara, it has BB foundation, lip gloss, so super cute, so super smart, right? And so I'm going to have her on to really talk about that, talk about what prompted her to create this product, and really get to know the woman behind the idea. So sit tight, and I hope you enjoy the interview. Please help me in welcoming my guest tonight, Lynda Peralta. Hey guys, well, welcome back to another episode of the Empowerment Hour podcast. And as promised, joining me tonight is the founder of one of the most innovative products that I have encountered, probably within the last decade. Please join me in welcoming Lynda Peralta. Hi, Lynda.
Hi, Nancy. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for joining me. I just want to kind of let my listeners know. I want to give them a brief background on how I came to know you. And so, for those of you who are listening, and if you've been following the show for some time, then you know that last month I had attended Hispanicize in Miami, and there was a special segment called El Perfect Pitch, and it was a shark-like kind of thing where business women, in this case it was business women because the finalists were three women, came and they pitched their idea, for a new product, and the winner of the pitch won $5,000 to put towards their idea. And so Lynda was the winner of that, and she was phenomenal. Not only was the idea phenomenal, but she freaking nailed the pitch. Like, it was so spot on. How did that feel like for you?
Well, I always get really nervous before a pitch. Like, hands are shaking. I'm really sweaty. So I always sweat so much, and I have to go to the bathroom 100 times. And so, like, by now, I'm just used to that nerve-wracking process. But on the other hand, I can also tell when I did a good job. Like, I know when I go on stage and I hit my marks and I do everything perfectly.
Right.
And then I also know when I don't do a good job, and I know it immediately. So as soon as I walked off that stage, I was like, I don't care if I win or not because I did an amazing job. So that was a really fun
That
pitch.
was how you felt, like you knew, right? You knew when you walked off that stage that you killed it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like, not even a humble brag, like straight up, I know that I killed that pitch.
No, you were amazing. I don't know if you know, but I had actually submitted, a pitch also. And I was like, if there would have been 4 finalists, I would have been the 4th one.
Oh, wow.
But so cool. I'm so happy that I didn't, because I would have lost. Like, I'm nowhere near as prepared. Like, you hit every single point. Like, so the judges didn't even have real questions for you. All they could do was say, like, how great you was and how phenomenal the pitch was and how you nailed it. It was phenomenal.
Thank you.
So now that I've kind of told my listeners a little bit about how we met and how I came to know you, give them a brief, I guess, background on who Lynda is and how you came about this idea, the Pocket Palette.
Yeah, absolutely. So real fast. So like I said, I know that I killed the pitch when I walked off, but the judges not asking any questions really threw me off, because usually that means that they didn't like it, or they essentially don't want to waste their energy asking you questions because they know that they're not going to move through. So, and which is something that has happened to me before several times. Right. So that totally threw me off a little bit, but it was still like, whatever. But anyway, so about me, I am from the San Fernando Valley, born and raised. I went to USC undergrad, spent most of my time of my life in LA. But I actually moved to DC about 5 years ago, and that started with work, and then it turned into school, and now I'm working full-time with the Pocket Palette. And that whole time, I'm loving the East Coast and I'm loving DC, but that whole time I have like this bi-coastal heart that I carry with me, because LA will always be home.
How did you decide that the market needed your product? What was it that said, all right, I need to do this, and I need to develop this and distribute it for every single woman on the go? I mean, because it's a phenomenal, it's just, it blew my mind. Because the idea is so simple, and it's like, yes, so innovative, as simple as it is, but it really, you've really been able to tap into a market that is an existing market. The beauty industry is a huge industry, but the fact that no beauty company has even thought of doing this is like, wow. So kind of tell the listeners what the product is and how you got the idea for this product.
Yeah. So to introduce the Pocket Palette. So essentially what it is, it's a single-use full face makeup kit. and it has a single serving of BB cream, which is essentially a tinted moisturizer, a dual purpose lip and cheek color, and regular mascara, and the mascara has a wand in it. And so if you can think about it, for those of you who can't see it right now, it's essentially the size of a Post-it note, but it kind of functions like a multi-compartment ketchup packet. And so that was the sense of what I had when I first thought about it. Right. Because essentially the very first time that I made a pocket palette was the very first time I thought of the idea. So essentially I was taking like a 5 a.m. train from DC to New York. And it was one of those where you're like, there's no way that I'm waking up at 3 to do my makeup for a day trip. But also, like, I'm not trying to carry a whole makeup bag with me if I'm just going to come right back. Like, it just didn't make any sense to me. And so what I ended up doing instead was squeezing some makeup into a sandwich bag. And I had 3 little sandwich bags. One of them had my BB cream in it. Another one was essentially like the broken tip of a, what is it called? The second bag was essentially the broken tip of a lipstick. And then the third bag had just a small mascara with me. So I used that to do my makeup on the train. You know, as I was pulling into Penn Station, I just hopped into the bathroom real fast, like washed my face, did my makeup, threw it away. And then I was able to essentially go about my day the second I walked off the train. And I was like, oh, that was kind of easy and fun. But I honestly, like, Nancy, I did not think about other people using it for a few years. And really the first time that I had my essentially my market validation was like 3 years later. I was at this time, I was in business school. I was in the bathroom and I overheard some girls who, just got out of class, and they're like, oh my gosh, I hate carrying makeup to school because I have class all day, but then I have job interviews, but like you can't, there's no way around it because if you're in school all day, like you have to do your makeup again later in the day. So there were 3 of them, and they were all emptying their makeup bags into this public restroom. I was like, first of all, this is disgusting. Secondly, like, we all do it, right? And so I essentially like popped out of the bathroom in a super creepy way. And I was like, hello, would you consider using a single-use full-face makeup kit? And they're like, what the hell?
They must be like, first of all, why are you eavesdropping on our conversation?
Yeah, no. They were totally like, okay. And then one of the girls was like, yeah, where can I buy it? So like she just totally was not care about me, jumping out of the bathroom stall. But they're like, yeah, that actually could be a good idea. And then they had questions like, how much makeup would it have? And like, is it resealable? And blah, blah, blah. So I was like, yeah. I'll get back to you. So those girls ended up being like my very first testers. And
so when you stepped out of the bathroom, right, and now you know that you have, potential for something here, what do you do? Like, what is the next step from taking that idea and actually putting it into action?
Well, you just answered it. Like, you just have to put it into action. So the very first thing that I did, I went onto Amazon and I researched like little plastic pouch. Because I knew that I could do it with a sandwich bag because I've done it before, but I essentially wanted something that had a tear off notch on it. So I wrote like little plastic pouch with tear off notches, and I searched there and I was like, okay, this is something that it looks like. So I bought it on Amazon, and at home we had one of those like potato chip bag sealers to keep your hot Cheetos fresh.
Yes.
So I used that to make the seal creases in the very first pouch that I got. And so I had my Amazon pouches and I had the chip sealer. And so I made little lines with it. And I was like, okay, like I just want to see if it can hold water. And so I like filled it up with water and I sealed it again. I was like, okay, like this works. And so from there, I was like, okay, now I had to get a little bit more sophisticated with these patches. But that was essentially it. My very first step to, like, once I had this idea was to physically make it. And that part is so important in entrepreneurship. Like, I always tell people not to get caught up in research and does this exist and blah, blah, blah. Like, the first step is to just do something.
Wow. So you did that, and now you see that this works. What happens after that? Like, I know that and this is from my own personal research on kind of you and your journey. I know that you have entered many different types of pitch competitions. You were able to raise over $56,000 on Kickstarter, for this. How did you take it from that initial, I guess, testing or creation to where it is now?
Yeah. So, okay. After I had my very first, pocket palette with the water pouch, I set off and I was like, okay, now what do I need to do? And that part was a little bit scarier because at that point I had to do a little bit more research on, where to buy makeup from and what's a contract manufacturer and what even is this pouch called in real life? So, all of that research, from the time that I made my very first pocket palette, that was in 2016. And so that whole year was essentially research and trying to figure out. Also, I was in school full time. So I was, I couldn't focus on it fully.
Right.
But the very next step was to figure out, like, okay, do people sell makeup in bulk? And that was very fast. That was like the first Google search answer that I had. And the answer was yes. And so the second was to find out what this little pouch is called, according to manufacturers. And so I, did a bunch. It was essentially me playing around in Google. And finally I found out what it was called. I went to a manufacturing conference that was in Philadelphia. So I showed up and I just essentially took my little homemade pocket palette and I went up to these manufacturers and I said, can you make this? And they would look at it and some people would be like, yeah, we can make this. We can make this with a minimum order quantity of 500,000. I was like,
oh my gosh,
that is not possible. But I will take your business card because I will eventually need you.
Right.
But then a lot of people were still like, oh, honey, this is such a cute idea. Good luck with your school project.
Oh my God.
And I was just like, what?
They are going to eat their words, Lynda. Okay. They're going to curse themselves for not getting in on this when you first approached them.
Yeah. So that was one of the first times that I just I didn't even know how to respond. First,
because it was a bit condescending, I could imagine. Here you are, and you've invested all of your time in researching and actually attending this manufacturing conference because now you're serious about the development of this product.
Yeah,
and I guess what the feedback that you're getting is oh well, good luck on your school project.
Yeah, no.
How did that make you feel? I mean, at that point, did you ask yourself, is it really even worth me continuing this?
Okay, no. So I'm a very horribly stubborn person, and my mom hates this about me.
Well, in this instance, it worked in your favor.
Yeah, no, totally. So exactly how you thought. I was just well, you know what? F you. I'm going to walk away and keep my cool because one day you're going to see me on Shark Tank or on QVC and you're going to be like, damn, I messed up. So that's essentially what I took away from that whole experience.
Wow.
And I didn't even find a freaking manufacturer that whole weekend. So,
but I mean, at least though, you showed up, and I mean, I'm sure that you gained some knowledge from attending. At least you knew that it was possible for them to create that, right? To manufacture it for you.
Yes, because and that part was so important that you just said you at least know that it's possible because up until that point, so that conference was in the fall already. And right before, all the way up to that, I was getting on the phone with people and they're like, oh, this is impossible. And, hang up. And so it was just so incredibly frustrating. But then to physically go in and see that yeah, this could totally, this is no problem, but it's going to be 500,000. I was like, okay, cool. I know that it exists. I know that there's a version of you somewhere. I just need to find it. So that part was the most validating part.
And so what would you say then what has been the hardest part of the product development process? You know, like what challenges, if any, have you encountered on your journey, aside from, you know, these people saying that, you know, good luck and not really believing in your idea? As far as the actual development and creation of it, what have some of your challenges been?
So it also goes into like the physical manufacturing of the product. So
Okay.
my very first pocket palette pouch was super tiny. It was like the size of a business card, essentially. And I was really hung up on having it be the size of your pocket of your business card, which I think that one day could totally happen.
Right.
But I just couldn't get past it. And so somebody said like, "Oh, I can make this in a 5x7." And I was like, "No, like this isn't the same thing." So the hardest part about the product development is the physical development
Right.
of the product.
Is getting it to be the way that you envision it to be.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So that whole process. So after that conference, a few months later, I ended up finding one in Jersey, and they were gonna work with me. But then last minute, they're like, "Yeah, this is gonna be like an 8.5x11 sheet of plastic." I was like, "What the hell?" Like,
Oh my God, that's
no, like,
gigantic.
doesn't make any sense. But they wasted so much of my time. That took like 4 months just to get that final no. And so that was like super disheartening because at that point, like, I had already told my husband, I told my teachers, I told my classmates, like, I'm not getting a job after school. Like, I am working on the pocket palette. And then for them to tell me, like, right before graduation, like, this isn't going to work, like, it was devastating. Like, to not put it lightly, but it was like really a heartbreak. But eventually, like, it's part of the like you said, the product development challenge. Like, you just have to keep going. And so I learned from that mistake. And so at that point, I was talking to, like, I always made sure to be talking to at least 3 manufacturers at any one time, so I wouldn't have to waste time in case one decided to fall through. So eventually we found our manufacturer, and then, like, as soon as they gave us a sample and what they could look like, that whole process was really fast. It was like 2 months. And then we had about another 2 months to plan for our Kickstarter. So at this point, it's like midsummer 2017. And then our Kickstarter was in October of 2017.
And you exceeded the goal that you had set for yourself with that campaign, right?
Yes, but a girl, like, there was a point where I was like, I'm just going to go to bed because it's not going to happen. Like, why even stress anymore?
Oh my goodness.
But that morning, so the Kickstarter ended like at 2, and that morning we woke up like at 7. So my cousin was working with me at the time, and we woke up at 7, and there was still like $15,000 left to go, and I was like,
oh my God,
it's not going to happen. Like, I was like, I'm just going to meditate.
15,000. That is, but you made the goal and you exceeded the goal.
Yes, because people like got so hyped up on it, like, more than everything like that I've ever seen. So, like, people were screenshotting me, like sending me screenshots of messages that they were just texting, like mass texting their friends, like, "Hey, put in $10, put in $20." We had 2 very large donations come in at the last minute. And so, like, that's part of the thing with preparation. Like, you also have to know who you can lean on at the very last minute to pull through. So I started to look at, like, the people who had donated over $100 at that point. I was like, okay, is there any way that you can add like another $50?
Right.
Like, okay, like, fine. So we did that. We like sent text messages that morning to a bunch of different people, and it worked. At the very end, even my cousin got the ex-president of her university to give like $300. So it was like everybody at the end just kind of came through for it.
That is amazing. And I think that it speaks to the belief that this is something that people want and need. I mean, for you to have so many people back you and you're able to raise this amount of money and so much of it at the last minute, I think it says a lot about your idea, Lynda. I mean, how do you feel knowing, because I think really it's going to be just a matter of time before this really becomes like the next hot beauty item, that it's going to come to a point where women are not going to be able to live without the pocket palette. And that's just how I see it for you, because I think it's just such a smart product. How do you feel knowing that you were the one that created this? Has it even registered to you yet? I mean,
you know what? It hit me. I just got the samples, like with the actual makeup and with the printed label on it. I just got the sample of that on April 11th, I think. And that day I had it shipped to a friend's house because I was traveling. I was like, I needed to pick this up for me. And so when I saw it, and I was just like on the street in New York, and I just started crying. I was like, oh my gosh, like it all came down to this stupid little piece of plastic, like all of this stress.
Right, yes.
But that's, I think, when it hit me, like I made this, like straight up, a lot of people helped me. A lot of people like were involved in this, but like this came from my sandwich bag that I was too lazy to carry my makeup with me. Like this is what came of it. And so that's definitely a moment that hit me, and it like hit me really hard.
I mean, I would imagine, because again, it's just really, it's a simple idea, yet you were the one out of basic necessity, right? The basic desire to not want to lug your makeup bag around, which many of us do. You know, I myself have tons of makeup that I'm carrying with me on any given day in my bag, that it's almost, I can't believe that no major beauty brand has not thought of this. I mean, how have you even been in discussion, I guess, with any of these brands? And are you open to even licensing your product?
Definitely. I'm definitely interested in licensing the product. And I think what happens is that a lot of people say things like, oh, I wish I had a product like this, but then don't do anything about it. And I feel like major beauty brands have had to have come up with this idea at some point, but maybe they just didn't know how to execute, or like they didn't think it was worth it. But at the end of the day, like I really made the pocket palette so that I could buy it. Like I just really needed it. And
I don't know if it's because I'm a mom and I'm always on the go and I'm always juggling, you know, so many different things, that if I have one less thing to carry, and that's my makeup bag, and your pocket palette is going to serve the same purpose, I would, I see myself buying it. And what's the price point for one pocket palette?
Okay, so we're not selling one individually.
Okay.
But so for a packet of 3, it's $12, and for a packet of 10, it's $35.
Okay.
And you hit a really important part. Like, you're a mom, you're running a podcast, you have a full-time job, you have all these competing priorities. And Pocket Palette from the beginning was created so that women can focus on their priorities. Like, sometimes makeup is your priority, and that's when you sit down, and that's when you do it nice, and you get the spray, blah, blah, blah. But other times, like, you just need something real fast and not have to take up any more of like your brain space. Like,
you want to look presentable. You don't want to show up with bags under your eyes. You want a little lipstick. You're not going to put a full face, of course. But I think in those moments when you don't have the time really to sit and work on your makeup, that is when that comes in handy.
Exactly.
So I want to shift gears a little bit here, because you did mention your mom, and it is the month of May, and we're Mother's Day is this month. Would you say, I guess, that your mom influenced you, or had any influence on this dynamic businesswoman that you've become?
Yeah, I would say that both of my parents, but for very specific reasons. So one, they are like the most supportive, and they don't totally get what I'm doing all the time, but they're just like, okay, Mija, like, sounds good. Let us know how we can help you. But my dad was like instrumental in teaching me how to think like an entrepreneur. So, for example, I tell the story of whenever he would pick us up from school, me and my brother, he would drive us around, and then he would point out, like a closed down restaurant, and he'll ask us, we're kids, and he's like, why do you think that business closed down? And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, well, no, think about it. Look at the other restaurants around. He's like, why are they still open? This one closed. And so he would make us think like that. And then we would drive by an empty lot. And he's like, if you could put any business there, what would you put there? And so like, he
That's so
always taught us to
interesting.
think about these types of opportunities.
Is your dad a business owner?
No. So
That's interesting.
he is just like, he's always thinking like that. And he always has for his whole life. But my dad was very much like a survivor. Like, you have to figure things out, like both my parents are. And so my dad, you know, developed that opportunist brain
Right.
through his years of just like being an immigrant and working hard and like getting to where he is.
Right.
But my mom also talked about survivorhood. Like, she remember how I told you about how like I had this incredible like stubborn moment when that guy told me like, good luck, honey?
Yes.
Like, that flame of fire, of fury that came within me, like, is so for my mom. Which is why she hates it when I'm like this.
Well, because you're so much like her, right?
Yeah,
in that way.
exactly. And so my mom is one of those who's like, fine, if you tell me that I can't do it, you're gonna watch me and you're gonna kiss my ass because I'm gonna do it better than you. And so she like, you know, so
Right.
that's definitely where I get it from.
You know, that it's really interesting to see that, I guess from early on, this was almost like your destiny. Like, and I like if you kind of step back from it, right? Your parents, it seems like they were always preparing you for this life. The fact that your father, who is not even a business owner, was preparing you to think with an entrepreneurial brain. I think it says a lot. And I think because there's so many people that have ideas, right? But the difference is that you follow through on your idea, right?
Yeah.
So people that have ideas, it stays in the idea stage, but you took, what your father taught you with that stubbornness and fire that your mom has, and that's kind of led you to this point, and that you're on your way.
Yeah, thank you. I think you said it perfectly. Like, my mom is definitely one of the ones who says like all these things are preparing you for something that you just don't know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So when my very first job out of my very first job out of college was working at Target and as an assistant store manager. And I would work like 14-hour days. My longest shift was 16 hours, and I oversaw the beauty department, the cosmetics, the bleach, the
Right.
vacuums and everything. And when I would come home just so exhausted and like not even able to function, my mom would be like, she's like, well, if you don't stay with it, like, this is really going to prepare you for something in the future.
Right.
And so she would always say things like that. And so now I can see.
You can connect the dots, right?
Yeah, it's so much easier, obviously, looking back. I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But when you're going through it, you're just like, oh, why is this happening to me? But I think that all of the experiences, like you said, have really prepared me to do this.
I think that it's also important to highlight that, just like you said, that oftentimes we go through certain things, and things that we may not understand. We don't understand what the purpose of those things are in the moment, right? And it's not until we get to some future state, right, that we can kind of step back and say, wow, now I understand what the purpose of that was. Now I understand what that was preparing me for. And I think that the fact that you have the retail background, that you've had experience in operations and marketing and all of these different things that are going to prove very beneficial with your product, right? And how you move forward with that, and how you build it up, how you expand and really grow it. All of that is gonna come in handy for you. All of that experience. That at that point you didn't understand why you were there and why you were doing those things.
Absolutely. And I think it's exactly right. I think it's important to note for the listeners, like, if you are going through something where it's like, why is this happening to me? You can just hear my mom's voice, like in a very nonchalant manner, saying like, well, you're going to find out soon anyway, so might as well just get through it.
So right now you're working full time on the Pocket Palette, right?
Yeah.
So what's an average day look like for you? So, you wake up and what are you doing on a day-to-day basis as it relates to your brand and to this product?
I really wish that I had a more interesting answer for you. But it's really not. It's actually like, it's kind of a bum life because I just wake up, I get some coffee, I start opening emails, sending emails, and then I like could take an exercise break at some point during the day, but then I come back to my desk, get on phone calls with people who have heard about the Pocket Palette or just want to learn more, or people that I'm trying to court, like people I'm trying to get to either invest in or to purchase, etc. Then I have dinner, and then I hang out a little bit with my husband. Then I go back to work, and it's just kind of not very interesting.
But I think, but I think though that for a lot of people, really, that's what it is. Even those that kind of check into an office job. A lot of my day is sitting, making calls, and responding to emails. Right? That's the way of the world, really.
Yeah.
At this point, so I guess, what advice can you offer young entrepreneurs or anyone who is in pursuit of their dreams and may be afraid to really go full force?
My one tip for anyone, and not even related to entrepreneurship, is to not think, but do. And so it says it there where we can get so caught up in thinking, is this the right decision? Is this going to be worth my time? Like, the time is going to pass you by anyway. So you might as well just take that first step and do, so that you can at least be in a better position tomorrow.
That is probably some of the best advice that I've ever heard. Because I think you're right. So many people spend so much time thinking that they never get to the action step, right? And it's the action step that's really going to get you moving. You can think along the way, but I mean, it's more important to kind of start working. So I guess, how can my listeners learn more about Pocket Palette? How can they connect with you directly, if they're interested in learning more?
Yeah, so we are online right now at thepocketpalette.com, and palette is spelled Palette. And you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, all the social medias, and it's just at Pocket Palette. But if you have any questions specifically about entrepreneurship or really any of my experiences, I love sharing what I went through with people. So you can just feel free to email me at Lynda@thepocketpalette.com. And that's Lynda @thepocketpalette.com. I love talking to people and sharing my story.
And this is a truly inspirational story. Before I let you go, because I wanted to mention this and I didn't talk about it earlier, but I know that you recently auditioned for Shark Tank. How was that?
Yes, that was such a weird experience. So the very first step is to apply online. And then from there, they decide if they want to invite you to audition. And the audition, literally, Nancy, from the time you walk in through the door to the time you walk out is like 2.2 minutes.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yes, and it's crazy because it's in like a hotel ballroom, and you can hear the other contestants outside the door, and there's somebody pitching next to you. Like, it's so bizarre. But you just go, you kind of like word vomit your pitch, you shake the person's hand, and you're out. And then they're like, okay, we'll talk to you soon if we like you. So like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
So
how did you feel after your I guess audition? How did you feel once you left the room?
Well, you know how I told you how I know when I kill it and I know when I don't? I definitely did not kill it. So
you think it was your nerves though, maybe?
It was definitely my nerves, but we were being prepared for, like, they said, keep it under a minute and a half and, hit all the points. So I essentially like memorized my speech because you had no notes. Like there was nothing there to prompt you. Obviously I had the pocket palette on me, but I was like, okay, ready, set, go. And I like started talking, and the girl was very chill, and she was like, oh yeah. And she was asking me questions and she was interacting with me, but I was like, girlfriend, I do not have time. Like I did not count for your feedback in my time. Like I have to get this out.
Right.
So it was very weird, but
well, you know what? If it's meant for you, it'll be for you. And regardless of whether you make it on Shark Tank or not, this is going to be a hit. And remember that I said this, and then when it does, I'm gonna be like, I know Lynda. I met her. I actually had her on my podcast. And then by that time, you're gonna be a hard woman to kind of get in contact with.
Yes. But my email still stands. I'm happy to talk to you again and to anybody. So,
but thank you so much for joining me. This was such a wonderful conversation. The next time you're in New York City, please let me know. Maybe we can meet up for lunch or coffee or something.
Absolutely.
I would love for us to connect again in person. I know in Miami it was so much going on, and everyone was so busy. It was so hard to kind of get a moment for yourself. But I would really, love to kind of connect with you in person. So just keep me in mind the next time you're in the city.
Absolutely will. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And I will talk to you soon.
Thanks, Nancy. Thanks, everyone.